Our sun, the giver of life. At the same time, it is hostile, destructive. Protuberances unimaginable in size are being hurled into the universe. These flares may become the undoing of modern civilization.
Well, the best known historical example of a very large solar flare is an event called the Carrington event, which happened in 1859. This was observed by an astronomer named Carrington who saw a patch of the sun as he was monitoring sunspots grow brighter. In those days, the predominant form of technology was telegraph. That was our main form of communication. And this very, very large flare that happened that created a brightness change so great that Carrington could actually see it with his eye, which is very uncommon, actually induced currents in telegraph wires that created fires in the paper of the telegraph machines. There's even reports from that time of aurora being seen as far south as the equator, and there being auroras so bright at the northern latitudes that it was possible to read by them at night. We've been fortunate that nothing as large as the Carrington event has happened in these times of modern technology, but even these smaller solar flare events that we do see do disrupt our communications and create outages in our power grid and disruptions for our satellites.
New York City. What Hurricane Sandy caused here could happen on a worldwide scale, and much worse. No electricity, no internet, no drinking water, no flushing of toilets, no gas and no shopping.
All you could see was the outline of the hospital against a darkened sky, a lone flashlight up in one of the hospital rooms there as doctors and nurses rushed from patient to patient. Out front, ambulances, these images from my iPhone as we approached the hospital. Just one of the nearly 300 patients who were one by one brought out and taken to safety.
And what we got going on here is a complete blackout in New York City. And I'm on the third floor of Clear Channel, where Z100, KTU, Light FM, Q, we're all located on the third floor. And every station is off the air in New York City. I don't think it's ever happened in the history of broadcasting in New York.
It's like a Will Smith movie, man. It's very weird. Very weird. And I feel kind of helpless because I'm glad I'm here and I'm safe, but there's a lot of crap going on at home. My neighbor's telling me it's a big mess.
Yeah.
So I'm nervous about what I'm going to head home to tomorrow. So.
This is a control room.
Meet Lawrence Krauss. As a cosmologist, he is studying the origins of our universe. Much of his attention has been focused on our planet.
If there's a solar flare, if you destroyed the information fabric of the world right now, modern civilization would collapse. Hundreds of millions of people will die, billions of people will die. The world will become, for people like you and me, unimaginably ugly, difficult, and there's great likelihood that I couldn't survive. If the internet shuts down, people will not remember how they used to live before that.
I start to think of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I mean, let's get back to the base of the pyramid and think about food and shelter. You have food networks that are hugely dependent on being able to route digitally what the needs are and where. And through efficiencies created when the network is working well, you don't have warehouses near people stocked to the brim with food. If you disrupt those networks, I imagine, what do they say? Civilization is always about 4 square meals away from utter ruin. That's something that it wouldn't be bad to prepare for. As we've thought about an Internet of Things, where often for purely, looked at this moment, unnecessary reasons, we not only attach daily objects to the internet, but make them reliant on that internet connection in order to function properly. So the idea that our standard appliances couldn't work without connectivity, that we wouldn't be able to get to a restaurant that in turn would be able to get to food and to organize staff.
I suspect, however, that some individuals will survive. Let us remember that we come from a background where at one point there were less than 1,000 individuals alive, probably down in the southern part of Africa, and we were a hair's breadth away from disappearing as a species.
We have no control over what the sun chooses to do. We do know that there is a solar cycle, so there are times of high activity when there are many flares, and there are times of low activity when there are relatively few. Events like the Carrington event appear to be fairly uncommon, but not non-existent. They're not single isolated events. We do see that flares are repeatable. It's just that the large ones are less common than the small ones. So by observing other stars, actually, we can get some idea of how frequently these things happen, and it seems to be every few hundred years or so. So it's really a matter of time before we have a large solar flare, not a matter of... Yes, not a matter of if we'll have a large solar flare.
Will we disappear as a species? Again, Werner, I can't tell you because I don't make predictions. It will be unimaginably bad, and I'd prefer to not think about it right now.